Shalom WJC family. Time for our weekly Torah talk. This week in Shul, we will be reading Parshat Devarim. And Motzei Shabbos, right as Shabbos comes to an end this year, we will begin the memorial, the commemorative day of Tisha B'Av, the anniversary of the destruction of the first and second temples, and the saddest day on our Jewish calendar. It's not always back to back the way it is this year, but Parshat Devarim always comes the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. So what's the connection? There's a few. The word Echa appears in Parshat Devarim, lamentations or lamenting, which is the Megillah, Lamentations, Echa, that we will read on Saturday night for Tisha B'Av. But a deeper connection comes from Moshe's very words. We're told, as Moshe starts his great speech, the journey's coming to an end, we begin the book of Devarim, camped out on the banks of the River Jordan, on the east bank of the River Jordan, ready to cross into the Promised Land, but Moshe won't get to come. And so he addresses his people with a fairly long sermon, and the sermon is considered rebuke. He's chastising them for their faults in hopes, I guess, of reminding them so they don't fall prey to them when he's no longer with them in the land of Israel. And so he starts right off the bat with the story of the Miraglim, the story of the spies who went to scout the land. Remember, 38 and a half years ago, the people were in this very position. And they requested scouts to go to see the land before them. 10 scouts came back and said, it's beautiful land, but the people are giants and we can't beat them. Joshua and Caleb came back and said, it's a beautiful land, and with God's help, we can beat anybody. The people that night wailed and cried, and they were overwhelmed with fear in a complete collapse of their faith. And that night, the rabbis tell us, we're taught, was Tisha B'Av. And on that night that Moshe is recounting in our Parsha, it was decreed that that day would forever be cursed for the Jewish people, that on that very night it was ordained that when the first temple was destroyed and the second temple was destroyed, that it would happen on Tisha B'Av. And so there's this deep connection. And what's the problem? The problem is that everybody, save Joshua and Caleb, and I guess Moshe and Aaron, were overwhelmed. And Moshe says to them, all of you approached me. Right? It was everyone together who was overwhelmed by this sort of mob mentality. Because they were all together, they dragged each other down. But it doesn't have to be like that. At the beginning of our Parsha, when Moshe gathers the people, now in an orderly sense, as he's getting ready to leave, he says, Ela hadvarim asher diber Moshe el kol Yisrael. These are the words that Moshe spoke to all of Israel. Again, everyone together, but this time, everyone together seems to imply something good. That now they're orderly, now they're listening to their leader. And just as in the desert, when they listened to the report, the wicked report of the 10 spies, they collapsed together. So too here, when they listen to their leader, when they listen to Moshe, when they follow God and they follow Torah, so too they rise together. This is a central theme in Judaism that we get here in Devarim. It's the idea that we are a corporate religion, that we obviously believe in individual responsibility and the individual's journey, but we also believe that we are part of something greater, part of a whole that stretches back to Abraham and Sarah and forward to some great destiny in the world ordained by God and close to God's holiness in the world. And that journey that we are a part of That is our communal journey. And we too have that ability, right? To raise up the whole or to bring the whole down. And look, we see this all the time. When we're overwhelmed by fear, when we share our fear, it snowballs. And we've had so many chaotic times over the last year or two. It's not that the fear is always invalid, but that the panic is not helpful. And as the fire is stoked of panic, it spreads until we're all having a night of crying like the one described by Moshe here. And that complete consumption by a corporate people in fear drags everybody down. It makes every day feel like it's cursed, like the 9th of Av. But so too when we lift each other up, when we take responsibility for one another, right? When we gather in an orderly way according to the mitzvot, according to the way that God wants us to act in the world, and to support each other and to help each other and to bring goodness and to bring people closer to God by helping them, by making sure people are safe and secure and healthy and fed, by teaching each other the Torah we've learned, by raising each other up, by recognizing that not only Kol Yisrael Arivim Zeh et Zeh is every Jewish person responsible for every other one, but that in fact that extends even beyond the Jewish people. At least this was God's wish for us, God's command for us, to the whole world, that we have a role to play for all of humanity. And it is a role of spreading the ethics, spreading the morals, spreading the ideas of Torah, such that everyone can be lifted up. As we turn to observe Tisha B'Av together on Saturday night and Sunday, fasting, chanting Eicha Lamentations together in the shul, it is a reminder to us that we are all connected, that we have a responsibility one to the other, that we, whether we like it or not, we are like people on a boat, right? People on a boat are reliant on each other. If someone puts a hole in the floor, everybody sinks together, right? That's us. There's no what's it to you if someone's drilling a hole in the bottom of a boat. So too, in our journey, in our travels together, we are connected. We are responsible for one another. Let us work so that we don't make more Tisha B'Avs, that we don't make more cursed nights of panic and fear as we isolate each other and send everyone out who we disagree with or we don't like or we just think it's none of our business. That's going to create more Tisha B'Avs. Let's do the opposite. Let's create more order. Let's raise each other up. Let's share our hope with each other. Let's share our resources with each other. Let's do mitzvot such that all our days can be redemptive. We too can feel like we are right there on the river's edge, ready to cross into the promised land, ready to do so together because we are all lifting each other up and carrying each other forward in goodness and holiness.